Welcome to Biz Filing's Expert Insights. When your business needs expert advice on compliance issues, you can count on us. We provide tips, tools, and strategies to help you at every stage of your business's life cycle.
Hi, I'm Greg Corumbus. Our guest this week is Theresa Goody. She is the founder and CEO of the Goody Group. And this week, she joins us to talk about a very important concept for aspiring and beginning small business owners, the establishment of a formal business entity. And Theresa, thanks very much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's start with the basics. What is a formal business entity and why is it so important for small businesses to have one?
A business entity is just basically incorporating a person and setting up a separate legal structure for that business. And so the business will be separate from the person. And the reason a lot of people do it is because it protects you personally and all of your assets from being liable for any kind of debt or court judgment against your business. So it's a good idea to have a separate entity for your business than it is for your person.
And when should a small business owner start investigating this? Well before they open their door, or right around the same time? What's the timetable on that?
You can actually incorporate very quickly in a matter of a day, but you want to start looking into these procedures quite a bit earlier. It's good to plan out your business because other than just starting your business and incorporating, there are a lot of other aspects to starting a business. So there's requirements of needing a business license and permits and obtaining insurance, things like that. So you want to start and give yourself at least a couple of months. But hopefully you've been looking into it for a bit longer than that.
Now, of course, there are a lot of different types of entities that you could come up with. There's the sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, S corporation. So what are the main criteria in figuring out which one is best for you?
Well, a lot of it depends on what kind of a business that you're starting and whether you're doing it yourself or you're doing it with other people. So if you are starting a company yourself, I generally recommend for people to either open up as a limited liability company or a corporation as opposed to just starting out as a sole proprietor. Basically, as a sole proprietor, you can essentially just hang a shingle. And that means that you and your business are the same entity for all purposes, for taxes as well as liabilities. So that means if somebody sues your company, they can come after your assets. But if you incorporate as a limited liability company or some sort of a corporation, which can be a C Corp, which we're all generally familiar with, most corporations are, an S Corp, which is a smaller corporation, or a B Corp, which is a benefit corporation, and you have to be incorporated for specific purposes for that. And if you're starting by yourself, a lot of times people will just start with a simpler limited liability company, but a lot of it actually has to do with taxes. There's a lot of different tax benefits to being a corporation or being a limited liability company. So that's something where you really want to spend the time and the expense of getting a CPA to advise you of which will benefit you most tax-wise. But as for setting up the entity, I would definitely recommend setting up some sort of company or a corporation. And I want to note here something else that's really important that a lot of people don't know is there's also professional corporations and professional limited liability companies. And some people are actually required to set up these PLLCs or PCs as opposed to just the LLC or the corporation. So if you are a professional like a physical therapist or a doctor, dentist, lawyer, your state may actually require you to set up as this professional corporation as opposed to just a regular corporation. So that's something really important that people need to go and look into their state corporation commission to see whether or not they're required to set up separate special entities.
You've mentioned a couple of very important things there that I want to follow up on briefly, Theresa. First of all, you mentioned there's the LLC and the PLLC, both of which you have done, given your work with the Goody Group and the corresponding law group. So explain how you walk through that process personally.
Sure, absolutely. So, because I have a law firm, I have a professional liability, limited liability company. And I'm required to in the state of Virginia because I am a lawyer. And so only lawyers can participate in that specific, can be a partner in that specific company. So DC and Virginia both require that. Now, for my consulting company, that's not required. That for that, I can have a regular limited liability company. And actually, I can't set up a professional limited liability company for that because it's not an actual profession that's allowed to set up the professional company. And so with the consulting firm, it's just the regular LLC. And for the PLLC, the law firm, there are other requirements, like I have certain professional and malpractice insurance that go along with it. But in setting up each of those, along with picking out which entity you're actually going to start with, then there are actual other requirements. So you have to go and if you're going to get a website, you need a domain and you need to make sure that domain is available. And that oftentimes helps determine what the name of your different entity will be because so many domain names are already taken that people make slight changes or spell it a little bit differently so that their domain name can match their actual business name. And then you might need to trademark it. I didn't trademark my name, but some people do. And then you might need a license. Now, for my law company, since I'm a lawyer and I'm already barred and I already belong to these different licenses because I have a bar license with Virginia and DC, that counts as my license. Then for other types of companies, you might need a specific business license. So for the consulting, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. It will depend on your state. And then you have to look at, there's different zoning laws. So I have two offices in Virginia and in DC, but if I were to open a home business, then I would have to look into my locality and look at whether or not I need to apply for a zoning license. And then, of course, there was the insurance. And so those are the general requirements that you go through with your locality and your state to set up your different business. And of course, then there's the whole startup process and all the governing documents, which we can get into also.
Well, one of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times now, and I want to just make sure our listeners don't miss, is that depending on the jurisdiction you're in, the county, the city, the state, you could be looking at very different rules. So how important is it to investigate that, and what should you be looking for there?
It is. It's very important because there's also different taxes. And so, for example, one locality may actually require you to pay taxes to that county. So you may have federal, state, and county tax for your business. So it's important that you look into your county and your state both to see what the requirements are. And if, Google is your friend here. So most of this information really is available online. Most states will have some sort of a small business association seminar that they put on, and it will generally be free or very low charge for you to go and learn all of the different basic requirements to set up a business. And that's an inexpensive way to really inform yourself. I think the biggest problem that people have when they're starting their own business, and that I see in advising entrepreneurs, is that they don't actually take the time to understand all of their requirements beforehand. And it's much better here to ask your state and your locality for permission than to ask them for forgiveness.
Theresa, excellent advice. And while starting that small business is very exciting, there are important things that you need to have in place, particularly when it comes to limiting your own personal liability. It's amazing how quickly the podcast goes, but I don't want to end without giving you a chance to explain to our listeners what the Goody Group does and what services they might be able to benefit from you.
Sure, thank you. So I assist entrepreneurs of all sizes and help them through all stages of their life cycle. And so if you're looking to start up your business or you're trying to grow, as an MBA and an attorney, I assist with both the strategic and the legal parts of this. And I do want to note that I can also help with one thing we didn't get to is everything in writing. And so if you're starting a business, I can assist with that and make sure that if you're entering into a business with other people, you want that agreement. You want that prenuptial agreement. So a business is a marriage, and I can help you guys go forward with that without any clicks or any kinks, and help you just do what it is that you want to do without worrying about the legal mumbo jumbo that goes along with it.
Theresa, fantastic advice. Thank you so much for being with us this week. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Theresa Goody is the founder and CEO of the Goody Group. I'm Greg Corumbus. For more information on establishing a formal business entity, visit the URL or call the phone number on your screen.
Biz Filings, a Wolters Kluwer company, has been incorporating businesses since 1996.